Welcome to the Berean Remnant. I'm your host, Dr. Bernard Mauser, and today we're going to talk about how to reach your political opponent. Last time, I tried to make the case that your political opponent is not so dumb that they would fail a personality test. So, what we all have a tendency to do is to think the person who disagrees with us politically only disagrees with us either because they're evil or because they're really dumb. And so, let me assure you that there's a lot of people who are dumb on every side of the issue. You can hold any of the three major worldviews, whether you're a progressive, a conservative, or a libertarian, and be really dumb. You also could be really intelligent and hold all those three worldviews. What we have to do is get back underneath the superficial slogans that the media likes to portray of these three worldviews and get to the heart of what is really real in order to effectively reach your political opponent. So the idea of the three languages of politics, I got that from a discussion I had with the Irish philosopher Gerard Casey. And he mentioned this book by Arnold Kling called The Three Languages of Politics. This is the basis for a lot of what I'm discussing here. But what I think we could do, and the thing that Kling really wants to do in his idea of the three languages of politics, is get people beneath the superficial sloganeering, if you will, the superficial analysis of the different political views, and allow us to have, okay, there's a common ground. I could see what they're saying, but move beyond that to the reality underneath so you don't demonize the person who disagrees with you. You could actually see the perspective they're coming from. That's what we want to do. So with I called them tribes last time. That's the term preferred by Kling. This tribal element, we discussed that each of the tribes has a language. We call them political parties often. You might not feel like the Democrat or the Republican Party or the Libertarian Party is necessarily an accurate representation of what you hold of. Of course, you have a more nuanced view. The reality is almost everybody has a more nuanced view. And that's what we have to understand. So the liberal or progressive axis, they see things through their lenses they use, their worldview, is the oppressed oppressor axis. So what is that? Okay, well, there's a group who oppresses another. And so when you analyze any public policy issue through those lenses, you could come to some type of conclusion. Well, they're probably going to hold that this is the case, that whatever it is, we'll say the tax code for example. The tax code should reflect a leveling of the inequality we find in society, because the reason there's such inequality is because there's a group of oppressors who are really rich and a group of oppressed who are really poor. So the tax code needs to act like Robin Hood. It needs to level the playing field. You got to take from the rich and give to the poor to bring equality. As it relates to the conservative, their lens through which they see things is a civilization versus barbarism axis. So when it comes to the tax code, how does the tax code reward civilizing traditional values? What are things that are virtues that we see in society? Well, the traditional family, hard work, saving your money. The tax code should reward those things. It should punish behaviors that it sees as less than civilizing. This is vices. So if you want to see more of a behavior, then you subsidize it. In other words, you give money toward it. If you want to see less of a behavior, you tax it. So vices would be those behaviors that you want to tax. That's what the tax code should reflect, in line with that conservative paradigm. With the libertarian, they see things through the lens of coercion versus freedom or coercion versus liberty. With the taxes, they tend to see tax as theft. Because what's wrong for me to do as a human, meaning take your stuff, I shouldn't be able to take your stuff, I don't all of a sudden get the right to take your stuff if I'm the mayor or the president or a senator. Even if all my neighbors on the block voted for me to be allowed to take your stuff. I don't agree to that. But everybody on the block voted that it's okay to do that. So if it's wrong for you and I to do to our neighbor, it doesn't all of a sudden become right, they would say, just because I'm the tax man or I'm a king or the president or a senator or a governor or the mayor. That's how they would see it, because what it is immoral coercion. So you might be permitted to coercively take your child's candy to force them to eat dinner, but that's because he's your child. It doesn't mean you have the right to do that to your neighbor, because your neighbor's not your child. Well, unless your kid lives next to you. But if they do live next to you, they're probably an adult at that point, so it would be immoral. This is a way to think about the different paradigms as it applies to at least one issue as it relates to the taxes. If you dig down into the heart of why is it they hold these views, you could start seeing, okay, they actually might hold more complexity. So we have to get away from villainizing or calling them names. I mean, it might be fun to call people names, but only in the sense like you can make fun of yourself and call yourself names. So I understand there's some pleasure that you might find more identity with your tribe. My wife prefers me to use the term political party, but I think that what you'll find is the political parties often are mixed as to who's in it. So you might find people who hold more of a libertarian lens in the Republican Party or maybe even the Democrat Party. Or you might find progressives who identify more with the Libertarian Party. So that's why I'm trying to go to the core of seeing either a progressive or a liberal lens or worldview or a conservative lens or worldview. I think Kling likes to call these different axes. This axis versus this axis. There's these two poles that each of these major groups hold. Libertarian, coercion versus freedom. Okay, so those are the major worldviews that come to bear when it comes to public policy and political issues that you'll be discussing with each other. What you should think about as a Christian is the fact that we can actually take off these lenses and see the reality as it is, and see that reality is significantly more complex, so you can have common ground to dialogue. All these people are created in God's image. You think, I understand more about their view than they understand. You think their view is more superficial. If you dig down, you're going to find out everybody's view is significantly more nuanced. But you can ask them questions about it to get to that. And once you do, and you find, okay, here's ideas of common ground that we have. Here's things that this political opponent misunderstands about reality. Then you can actually have constructive dialogue. That's really, at the end of the day, what you want to have. To move them closer to what you think is true and good and beautiful. Where do you access this? Well, through the general reality that we can all observe, but also through the scripture. If you want to move them closer to that, you've got to get past the superficial assessment. Stop judging by mere appearances and make a right judgment. That's what Jesus says in John 7:24. That's what we need to do when it comes to political discussion with people who disagree with us politically. So, Bereans, thank you for joining me. If you've liked this content, please like and subscribe. Leave a comment below for anything you'd like to see me address. And Bereans, continue to study the scriptures daily to see whether what I'm saying is true. Have a great day.